welcome to Foodie and Fit. My name is Michael James, and welcome to another Touch Base Tuesday. Touch Base Tuesday is what I like to do to cover my progress from the previous week, which always ends on a Tuesday for me. So for me, what I've noticed is that, hey, on today, I weighed in at 229 pounds compared to last week, which I think was for Tuesday 225, 226, no, 225.9. And so that can be definitely discouraging, but that's one of the reasons why when I look at my weight loss and I'm tracking it, I don't just look at the scale. One of the huge things that I've noticed is when I'm looking at the mirror, when I'm starting to see contours in my stomach. For me, my stomach is the region where I store the most amount of weight. So when I start noticing changes there, I know that regardless of what the scale is saying, weight loss, it's not just about weight loss. I'm worried more about fat loss. And so we covered last time, weight can fluctuate for a variety of reasons. So even if today the scale says higher, when I'm still noticing more and more changes in the stomach region, that's all I really care about. Because when I was 200 pounds a year and a half ago to when I was 230, I really actually don't care about the weight on the scale. I actually just care about the look. So if I could look exactly the same as when I looked at 200 pounds, when I was very lean, and I had a six-pack just on full display, and the scale would say 230 pounds, I actually wouldn't care. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost is they see the scale, they focus so much on the scale that they kind of lose sight of everything else. That's why, again, it's just more important that it's how about your clothes feel and how you're looking, because the scale is not always the best goal. Sometimes people choose a arbitrary number that they've either never weighed when they're trying to set a goal, or they're trying to set a goal based off of what they were weighed in high school. And people kind of underestimate that your weight in high school was given that, hey, when you had to do PE, when you had to walk a lot, when you had to do a lot of other things. So typically, a lot of people actually had a higher muscle mass, level of muscle in high school versus, when you're a couple years removed and you don't have those same requirements to stay as active. Because, hey, guess what? Going to go walk for like a half hour a day, that's really great and that helps on your heart, but that's not the same as when you're walking all the time I got up, I walked to high school, I walked from class to class, I walked to lunch. You do all these things that you don't realize what contribute to your overall health and that help it be easier for you to lose weight and stay thin and maintain a certain amount of muscle mass. So it's not always the best to try to compare yourself to your high school weight when trying to determine what your future goal should be. If all things stay the same, then yes, that's a perfect goal. And it's just, I know that I will sometimes do that. I'll use high school weight as a comparison, but I think it's just easier because I know what I am capable of, so I can be sub 200 pounds at this current stage while maintaining muscle mass. So I know it's possible because for me, the end of high school with wrestling and then volleyball, I even got into the 170s. So I used to wrestle 189, and especially when you're always worried about weighing in, because when I started wrestling, I was not 189. I was closer to 215, and they said, hey, well, maybe we'll just push you into 215s or maybe even the heavyweights. I was just like, no, I'll cut weight. And so I cut weight in high school. So when it comes to losing weight, I always try to encourage any of my friends who talk to me about what I'm doing and what they're doing is just to worry about long-term sustainability. There's a million diets out there which can work for short-term goals. And really the biggest thing is what works for you long-term. Because I hate to see, because I've seen it in myself from my own self-journey, but I hate to see when you work so hard just to come up short at the end or for it to not be a long-term thing. I don't want to just be thin for this summer. I want to be thin for next summer and the summer after that. And it's just easier if I do the things that are beneficial for long-term success. So that's why I'm not the biggest person into fad dieting, and I'll get into it sometimes with people and friends who, hey, this is what I'm doing, and you should do it this way, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, but for me, I like to stay up on people who are currently informed with the research as to what's going on. So everyone has the thing that the people that they gravitate towards, or the studies, the research that they gravitate towards, regardless if it's out of date or current. And so for me, I use other YouTubers like Athlete X or Jeff Nippard as people who present current information and try to like keep everyone abreast of what's going on and what things are going and how things impact your body from a science background, from like a current study. Jeff Nippard is famous for using current peer-reviewed research, and so that kind of for me trumps anything, because if you start talking to me about like what someone said from 20 years ago about anything nutrition related, I kind of will just tune that out. I'm not trying to be disrespectful about it, but it's just because fitness, health, a lot of things have stayed consistent, but some of the studies have kind of shown, hey, we looked at what was going on and we've debunked a lot of things, or we've tried to get down to the pure sweet science. For me, I like to use people as a specific bench goal as to this is what I'm working towards. So for me, I started using the people who are competing I'm not looking at the bodybuilders who just try to get as massive as possible, but the people who are trying to get as shredded and lean as possible, and who want to walk out on stage in board shorts with a 6 or 8 pack. And like for me, it's not the goal to be that shredded, but the goal is to be functional, and that is definitely possible. I mean, here at Foodie and Fit, my goal is not to just, hey, I'm going to eat boiled chicken and boiled broccoli and just eat that. Because yeah, you can get very lean if you're hitting your caloric goals. Like you can get very lean and shredded, but that's boring. Like for me, I like to pride myself on the fact that I'll still go out for tacos and beer. Because I went to a taco and beer festival in San Diego on Saturday. Yeah, on Saturday, which was a lot of fun. Or I still like to try some of these events, and you still have to find that balance. So for me, I'm noticing the changes of, okay, my face has, especially I've noticed in my family, we can store fat in our face a little bit easier. So especially when we're overweight, I can go back and look at older photos of myself and kind of see the chubbier cheeks. And I literally just was shown an old photo from like 2009. I was just like, oh Jesus, because I'm not like, all right, cool. I see where I was at that point. But for me, when I saw like storing it in my cheeks, like even now, it was like, oh, my face has seemed to get like a tad bit thinned out in comparison to where I was even 2 months ago. So it wasn't like a huge difference, but I was just noticing little things. So if you look at, and that's why photos are so important, and so you can see changes that like, okay, cool, maybe you can't see the change in your face, like even just a half a centimeter or millimeter or whatever and stuff. You won't be able to see it directly every day when you look at the mirror, because that you're with yourself every day, so you don't notice that sort of change. But when you can see little metrics and like, or look at how your face reacts to certain things, and so honestly, like, hey, okay, here's my jawbone, here's how my cheeks, like, if you just a light little smack and see like, hey, that's not shaking like it used to, or any of that type of stuff, like those are keys to just stay motivated and just to see that change. So for me, I'm definitely seeing changes on my stomach, where I store most of my face, and even just, store most of my weight, and even on my face, where it's just like, hey, it's thinned out a little, it's gone back to being as thinned out as possible. So it's not going to get crazy thin or anything like that, but for like, I have large cheeks and stuff, but even when I can start seeing my cheekbones a little bit more and stuff, like it doesn't really get too changed from this. So even when I got down to 200 pounds and was lean, like I know where my face is at now. Is like, that's a small thing, but most people are worried about having a double chin or a turkey neck or any of that type of stuff. So like, yeah, it's those things you notice. So for me, regardless of the scale has gone up on Tuesday, because that's like the best. That's not the best indicator of weight loss, because again, just how my body has changed. Like maybe today is the day where the scale spiked up, but then tomorrow or the next day it drops back down, and then I'm even lower than where it was last Tuesday. But I'm still noticing the changes in my body, and that's really what this is about, is just to try to document the changes that I'm seeing. Because hey, just because you start losing a little bit of weight, or you go a week or two, you're not likely to notice a change, but especially going into that month to 2 month range, you'll start noticing little changes. And so, hey, you can start seeing a little bit outline of your abs. All right, that's good, especially depending on the lighting. I know how that goes. And that's why, honestly, when some people take photos, you can tell girls love to take specific photos because that hides certain features and while minimizing other features. So, like, you see the front one leg randomly out, or them kind of leaning over doing other things. It's to highlight certain attributes. So if you are able to take a flat, boring photo and you can start seeing like, hey, or just standing in the mirror and looking at yourself in the same mirror under the same line conditions repeatedly, it's a little bit easier to notice the change. So, hey, my stomach, love handles were like, oh, hey, a little bit more inward, which is nice, because someone was surprised that, yeah, I only wear like a size 32 pair of pants. And they're like, yeah, but they just assumed that when you're bigger and stuff, it was like, oh, that wouldn't make sense. Which was like, no, it's size 32. And like, it's an interesting proportion, but it just takes looking at and documenting the changes and stuff. So for me, that's why I'm very big on the metrics of Fitbit, MyFitnessPal, but then just looking and it helps you stay motivated. It helps you keep going, because there's nothing worse than you step on that scale and the weight goes up and you're just dejected, and that may lead you to binge eating something that you really shouldn't be eating. So by just that has given me motivation, because hey, I know it's working, to see that change in my stomach, and that's the goal. And so when I have cousins going on cruises to Mexico and eating their faces off, or friends doing so many things, that's really fun, but you have to be willing to stick to what is your main goal. And so it does take sacrifice. It does take, hey, when I went to the taco festival and there's tacos and beer, I had tacos, I didn't have beer. I also didn't eat as much later on, and you have to be willing to make choices. And so sometimes that just says, hey, you know what, I understand that I'm going to go to this event and here's what's going to happen. So I either need to bring snacks so I don't just start eating all the junk food. And I had that happen yesterday, where I was so thankful that I had certain snacks I can force myself to munch on. It was like, no, it's good and nutritious and stuff, but that, hey, someone offered good Chinese food, and I had my snacks, so when I'm eating that, it's like, no, you know what, let me stick to that. And I've also had that where I've gone to Blaze Pizza, because I like the customability of the pizzas there. And so I actually walked in, I got mine, they said hey, we'll be with you in just a second. And then I kind of thought back to some of the progress I've been making and all those sorts of changes. I was like, you know what? And I was willing to walk out, because right now I haven't done such a great job of meal prepping right now, because I have big pork loin from Costco that's still vacuum sealed that I need to portion out, and I have other meats I need to start portioning out. And so that's just the focus for me, is to stay on track, because weight loss and fat loss are important, and so important to me. But it's not just about that, it's getting the results. Because if I stayed exactly the same weight but I got the look that I want, that's all that I really care about. So the nice thing is, when I'm looking at the averages, the average since I've started this weight loss journey it's been going down. Slowly but surely, the average amount of weight, regardless of the highest point, that's why I would always take 5 readings in a week, Monday through Friday, every morning once I get up. I can document it, and then just being able to notice the average. On average, I'm going down. So there's still going to be spikes where it's going up and spikes where it's going down. And that's why it's, like I said, it's not about the scale, it's not about the number, it's just about how you're looking and how you're hitting your goal. So I'm curious, has anyone had this experience where your weight has fluctuated, but you saw those changes? Talk to me, leave me some comments in the description of the video, so that way we can just kind of engage. Just because I like hearing about that stuff, because that encourages me to continue, encourages other people to continue, when you see like, hey, I started trying to lose weight, and I noticed the stuff, and when you realize it's not just you, that other people have the same issue, it's easier for you to stay consistent. So, my name is Michael James with Foodie and Fit.